Hi there. Good to be with you, even if it's just in digital format. I'm imagining you out there, even though at this moment in time I can't see you. I want us to look today at this story that we've just read or heard about the feeding of the 5,000. But just before that, I'd like to clear the decks a little bit. I went to school and in my RE lessons we had an excellent teacher who really knew how to communicate, and he was even a vicar, he was ordained, but he didn't believe in miracles. So when we came to just look at this parable, this miracle, he said, well, actually, probably what happened was that everybody there actually brought their packed lunch or their packed supper with them, and they had it somewhere in their pockets or something like that. And then when they saw this little boy come and give his supper to Jesus, they saw that at the front and they thought, oh, he's got his food out, we can get ours. And they just ate together at that time, and there was enough for everyone. I'm not sure about that. In fact, I'm very unsure. Let's remember that this is John's account that we're looking at. John was one of the 12 disciples, and it says earlier here that all the 12 were there. So John was there. So this is an eyewitness account, not a story that's been handed down, misunderstood, embellished. John was there. And of course, if you're making a picnic, if you're bringing some food, everybody would bring something different. Some people would bring some olives, maybe, some roast lamb, goodness knows what. But John there described people just having bread and fish. He was there with the distribution, and at the end they collected up the bits that were left over. Bread and fish, no olives, no lamb, nothing else that we're told about, and I'm sure he would have told us about it. Would have had a totally different view. And remember that the 12 disciples there, none of them had brought anything, so if they hadn't brought anything, then it would hardly be surprising that that the rest of the crowd hadn't brought anything. So sometimes you can end up, when you're having this sort of theological discussion, you can end up with a circular argument. I don't believe in miracles, so in this story of the miracle, X, Y, and Z happened. And because X, Y, and Z happened, it wasn't a miracle, and so I don't believe in miracles. So, you need to, sometimes one can get taken in by that, and I have very often. But, so let's move on, shall we? I want us to look at 3 elements in this story, in this account of the miracle. Let's start off with the bread, shall we? Here we go. Here's the packed meal, and we start off with the bread. This is mentioned, the bread and the fish and all that was mentioned in all 4 Gospels. This is the only miracle that is mentioned in all 4, Matthew, Mark, Luke and John. And all of them mention bread. There's a bit of difference with John, that he specifies it further. He says it's not just bread, he says it's barley bread. Now, barley bread compared with wheat bread is more chewy, not quite so tasty, and actually it's cheaper because barley sells at or sold at about half to even 1/3 of the price of wheat. So this is the poor man's food. It's the simple bread, not as tasty as the wheat that other people might have. And the loaves, we're not told what they were, but maybe something a bit like pita bread or like chapatis. And of course, me, with all my experience in Pakistan, I prefer chapatis. And again, there are 2 fish mentioned in all 4 of the Gospels. Matthew, Mark and Luke use the common word for fish. John uses a rather rarer word. Now remember, John is a fisherman, and to others maybe all fish look basically the same, but to John there was a difference, and the word that he used was opsarion, and that ends in arion. Now arion means small, so John is here distinguishing between a normal fish and small fish, between sardines, anchovies, whatever they had there, and what we might like as far as haddock or plaice or cod is concerned. These would have been either sun-dried or pickled in order that they wouldn't go off even within a short period in that warm climate. So again, these small bony fish would have been the diet of poor people and other richer people. The more discerning diners would prefer larger filleted fish, generally speaking. So we've got 5 of these loaves, chapatis. We've got 2 fish, and amongst 5,000 men is the word that it says, so there were women and children, so we may be talking about 6,000. Of what significance were they, or did they seem to be? Nothing. Useless, really. Insignificant. And then we have the third element I'd like us to look at, and that's the boy. Now, I've got bread and fish here, but I haven't got a boy, I'm afraid. So you're going to have to be the boy. I want you just to imagine. Put yourself into his sandals. And again, John, the other apostle, the other one, Matthew, Mark and Luke, talk about him as... No, sorry, I've got that wrong. Yeah, I'll carry on. Maybe I can edit that out later, or you can just laugh. Yeah, so John is very precise. He doesn't just say a child, a boy. He uses that arion at the end of the word, like we've had with these little fish. And he is a little boy. Now, you're probably aware of bar mitzvah, when a Jewish boy becomes a man at around age 13. So a boy is anything less than 13, and of course a little boy will be down the scale. So we may be talking about 7, 8, 9-year-old. You are 7, 8 or 9. And here you are surrounded by all these adult men who just see through you and speak over you. You're not really important. We don't know this boy's name, age, where he was from, nothing. In fact, he is only mentioned in John's Gospel. Matthew, Mark and Luke just don't mention him at all. I don't know, they didn't notice him, but John did. The eyewitness. But then what happens? The boy brings this insignificant, very plain contribution. Andrew looks at it and says, how far will they go among so many? A real put down and a reality check for this poor little boy. But then Jesus took the loaves, and from that point on everything changed. And he didn't just take these paltry gifts, he gave thanks to God. He said grace, he prayed a blessing, he said, thank you, God, for this food that you have provided for us. He was grateful, and he told God how grateful he was for this. And then what did Jesus do? He distributed this to those who were seated down, and he said, John says, and they had as much as they wanted. They were satisfied. And not just that, there were some bits left over. The disciples went round again, taking from the people the bits that they hadn't managed to eat. And they got these 10 basketfuls afterwards. And this bread, this bread, which, cheap, not very attractive bread. What was his name? Philip had said 2,000 denarii wouldn't be able to buy all the food we need to feed these people. Converting that into our money and our time, we're talking about something like £1,500. No, we're not. We're talking about £15,000. Sorry, I sometimes forget where the extra zero goes. £15,000 to feed 6,000 people. 6,000 people. Sorry, maths isn't my strong point. But this insignificant, apparently so, food then went on beyond feeding these guys' tummies. People seeing this divine provision of food remembered about their history. Their minds went back to the account of Moses and the people of Israel in the desert of Sinai as they wandered as nomads around the desert. And there God provided food for them. The book of Exodus talks about manna and quail. Particularly, of course, the manna, which was a bit like bread. And so along with that, their minds would have gone back to Moses' words in Deuteronomy, where he said, "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you. From your fellow Israelites, you must listen to him." So Moses had talked about this prophet that was going to come, like him. Moses helped the manna to appear. Jesus helped the bread and the fish to appear. So it's sort of quite similar. So might Jesus be this promised prophet like Moses? John tells us, after the people saw the sign that Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Then, the very next day, Jesus used the stir that had started with this little boy's bread, as it is used it as his jumping off point, as he spoke in the synagogue, in the worship place of the Jews there. And he invited his hearers to come to him and believe in him. I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Again he says, I am the bread of life. Your ancestors, just as you were thinking, your ancestors ate the manna in the wilderness, yet they died. But here is the bread that comes down from heaven, which anyone may eat and not die. Whoever eats this bread will live forever. I am the living bread that came down from heaven. I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life. I am the living bread, he says. Look how far these loaves and these fish, little loaves, titchy fish, how far they went. Do you, in this little boy's sandals, and as you are in the world, do you feel small, insignificant, unappreciated, ignored, unqualified, inexperienced, without the gifts and qualities that you so admire in others? Let Jesus take what you have, your bread and fishes. Give them to him. Let him use them. Use them for good. Whether it be practical help, whether it be spiritual help, whether it be something else completely. Let God use you and what you've got. But maybe you're not in that position. You're not quite at this point in time able to give yourself and the little bit that you have to Jesus. Fine. But just listen to what Jesus says. I am the bread of life. Now, in the Greek, there are two words that are emphatic there. One is I, and the other is the, as we'd say emphatically. I am the bread of life. Jesus is making an exclusive statement. I, me, singular, am the bread of life, the only one. There is no other bread of life. I am. In Palestine at that time, bread was the staple food. There was no alternative. No potatoes, no rice, no cassava, no sweet potatoes, just bread. Barley bread, wheat bread, but just bread. And Jesus says, I am the bread. And then he says, whoever comes to me, whoever includes you, whoever comes to me will not go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Two things. Whoever comes to me and whoever believes in me. And that's what Jesus is asking you, as he asks all of us to do, to come and believe. Now, you don't say, come to me, to someone who is already coming. You say, come to me, when somebody is either standing still and not going anywhere, or somebody is going somewhere but going the wrong way. Now, I don't know where you are, but Jesus says, leave where you are or where you're going now and come to me. He says, believe in me. Now, we're not talking about intellectual belief or studying. We're talking about trusting. The word belief here, pisteuo, means more trust than intellectual belief. And he is asking you to trust him. That's his invitation today. Thank you for listening, and God bless you.